She's fit for a straitjacket. This broad's fucked 3 ways towards the weekend. And you wanna know what? I dig it.
2005 was the year that defined the comedy movie renaissance. I'm going to go through the top 10 comedy movies of 2005, and you honestly will not believe that all of these came out the same year. You're not only going to see several of your all-time favorites, but also some unsung heroes that you might have forgotten about. 2005 launched the film career of the most important comedy director of all time. It gave us the greatest comedy movie actor of all time's magnum opus, and it sparked the most iconic spin-off series of all time. Let's kick things off with Judd Apatow's directorial debut in The 40-Year-Old Virgin, starring Steve Carell and Paul Rudd, which would absolutely crush it at the box office.
Andy, for the last time, I don't want your giant box of pornography.
No, come on, man.
The movie, of course, follows a 40-year-old who has not quite yet lost his virginity, and after his coworkers find out, they make it their life's mission to do whatever they can to make sure he loses his virginity. You know, just great writing, acting, and directing all around. You know, I know the star of the show is Steve Carell, but I've long said that Paul Rudd is the unsung hero of this movie. I think he's really the MVP. Really just comes in carrying off of the momentum that he picked up from Anchorman the prior year. Him and Steve Carell are actually an Anchorman as well. Saying that plot line out loud, it's funny because it just sounds like the silliest movie ever with little to no plot, but this movie always surprises me with just how deep the movie is and how heartfelt it is, how strong the dramatic elements actually are in this movie. And yeah, of course, this movie would just spark Judd Apatow's comedy movie empire of the 21st century. But yeah, long before Ryan Reynolds was Deadpool, he was starring in what has become one of the most iconic indie comedy movies of all time in Waiting. The movie takes us into the day in the life in a hectic restaurant and all of the antics that its employees play on each other and how they pass the time. And you know, something that really surprises me about this movie, especially because it's just such a low budget movie, an indie film at that, is just how loaded the cast is. Of course, I already mentioned we have Ryan Reynolds, but then you also have Anna Faris, Dane Cook, David Koechner. I mean, I forgot Justin Long, but I mean, he's like the second biggest actor in the movie. It's really just shocking how hard critics pan this movie. I mean, this is generally a well-loved movie by audiences, and you know, some of these movies I do watch and like I personally love, but I understand why critics wouldn't like it. But this is one where I honestly just don't really get it. I think this is a solid all-around film and should have pretty broad appeal.
You go home alone to masturbate while you cry, using your own tears as lubricant.
Okay, that was once, and I was drunk, and it was Valentine's Day.
But let's move on to The Longest Yard, which stars Adam Sandler and Chris Rock in this reboot about a bunch of convicts who form a football team to challenge the prison guards. You know, maybe this isn't the greatest movie of all time, but it's very much just one of those low stakes, low energy, just a fun all-around comedy that we've sorely been missing in recent times. And you know, every time I think about this movie, I cannot scratch it from my mind, the line that Adam Sandler has about, oh, we just schedule some shitty school in App State. And yeah, of course, this would happen 2 years before.
Appalachian State has stunned the college football world. One of the greatest upsets in sports history.
Well, ouch. Yeah, I'm ready to move on to that one, and what better transition into Thank You for Smoking, starring Aaron Eckhart, who you may also know as Harvey Dent / Two-Face from The Dark Knight. This movie is about a tobacco lobbyist who finds himself in the middle of a fight against a senator's anti-tobacco campaign. He has to fight this fight while also trying to be a great role model to his son and the challenges that come in between the two of them in the double life that he's living. You know, I vividly remember this movie coming out when I was 7 years old, and I just wanted to watch it so bad. Of course, I was too young to watch it. My parents were really strict. I mean, they wouldn't even let me watch this at the age of 15. But, you know, I watched this into my adult life, and it did not disappoint. This is definitely one of the better dramedies. And this is actually one of those rare comedies that performed well with both critics and audiences. But we've got another sports movie on the list with Fever Pitch, the comedy starring Drew Barrymore and Jimmy Fallon about a mismatched couple who struggle struggle to find their footing and garner a healthy relationship despite Jimmy's love for the Boston Red Sox. And I was a really huge baseball fan when this movie came out. It was probably like 2007 or so that I actually saw it. I was probably about 9 years old. I remember picking this one out at Blockbuster Video on a Friday night and watching it at home. It's not the strongest plot line. Again, very much low stakes, which I personally think stakes are super overrated. But, you know, just describing this movie, this seems like the run-of-the-mill, like 13% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it actually did pretty decent, and that really surprises me. In the spirit of baseball, we've got the remake of the 1976 classic, and that is Bad News Bears. The movie stars Billy Bob Thornton about an alcoholic who is the head coach of a Little League baseball team who struggles to turn his team of misfits into Little League champions. You know, baseball was like a really big part of my family growing up. A couple of my brothers were like really good. One of them went on to play college baseball. I remember this is one of those movies that I would just cycle through on the portable DVD player when we would drive to as many baseball tournaments. And even just thinking about it now, like just closing my eyes, I just can remember me sitting in the back seat of the green van watching this movie. And yeah, wow, I'm actually starting to get some car sickness because I was always nauseous back in the day on many of those long road trips. But you know, this movie definitely made those easier. Billy Bob Thornton is very much a legend. I mean, he was excellent in this and then even better in Bad Santa. I think he's definitely one of the most underrated comedic actors of all time. And something I actually didn't even realize until just now is that Richard Linklater, the same director as Dazed and Confused and School of Rock, was actually the director on this movie as well. And it's funny because he would actually direct Everybody Wants Some, which is another baseball movie. And he's also very much the king of low stakes. And another thing that I found really interesting about this movie is that the bulk of the kids on the baseball team did not go on to have movie careers after this movie. In fact, a lot of them, this is their only IMDb credit ever.
See you next year, bitches!
And I'm really just starting to realize how many sports comedies we really had in 2005, because we've got another one in The Ringer. Johnny Knoxville stars as an able-bodied, neurotypical man who decides to go and fix the Special Olympics and try to beat a bunch of handicapped and neurodivergent people at sports. He does this to try and pay for his coworker's surgery and also get his uncle out of financial pressure. This movie's pretty wild and took a ton of risks, as I'm sure you can tell by the plot line. Yeah, I'm honestly pretty surprised that this movie even got made, considering the inevitable PR nightmare that it would become. But you know, I'm all here for it. It's a pretty funny movie. Johnny Knoxville is fantastic, and the movie was produced by the Farrelly brothers, written by one of Family Guy's earliest writers.
Since when did Tar become politically incorrect?
The Ringer was not the only comedy movie that Johnny Knoxville starred in 2005, because he also co-starred with Sean William Scott in The Dukes of Hazzard. And the movie follows the trials and tribulations of two country boys who try to transport moonshine across the country. I honestly don't really have a ton to say about this movie, aside from the fact that it accomplishes its mission of creating a hilarious film that is reliant on lowbrow laughs. And you know, sometimes, honestly, that's all you can ask for. And 2005 also gave us the beginning of the most iconic spin-off series of all time in American Pie Presents Bandcamp. We follow Matt Stifler, the younger brother of Steve Stifler, who is punished by being sent to band camp for pulling too many pranks. This was actually the first American Pie movie that I ever watched. Yeah, I watched this on Netflix, and I mean, it was just such a horrible decision because this movie can't even hold a candle to any four of those movies, and I'm glad that I didn't give up after this one. We're all on the same page that this movie was made 100% as a cash grab to spur direct-to-DVD sales to just ride off the coattails of the original series. But you gotta respect the hell out of the hustle of this spin-off series. We didn't just have American Pie Presents Bandcamp, we also got the 4 sequels to it as well. Beta House, The Naked Mile, Book of Love, Girls Rules, which came out as recent as 2020, and, you know, this series might not be done. And of course, Wedding Crashers is what we're gonna finish on. I mean, this is just very much Vince Vaughn's greatest work of all time. You know, it seems like he might be making a comeback as well, which that would be exactly what the doctor ordered for the current state of the comedy movie industry. But we follow Jeremy Gray and John Beckwith, who's played by Owen Wilson, two guys that, you know, they just like to have fun. They like to sleep with chicks and crash weddings and take on these mysterious identities. And all this gets thrown for a whirl when John falls for one of the bridesmaids at one of the weddings they crash. He has to try and cover up his trails when, you know, they go out to her parents' lake house. And honestly, when you put it like that, this movie probably sounds like it sucks. But I will say it very much does not suck. This is, without question, my #1 comedy movie of all time. And I'll even take it a step further and say that this is my #1 all-around movie of all time. And I don't think that's that insane to say, considering critics and audiences both loved this movie. We have Vince Vaughn at the peak of his career, and his improv skills are just second to none. And then Owen Wilson, and then just the supporting cast. Oh my God, we got Christopher Walken, Rachel McAdams, Isla Fisher, Jane Seymour, Bradley Cooper too. Unrecognizable, but Bradley Cooper. Then we get the most underrated comedy movie director of all time in David Dobkin directing the whole movie. And oh yeah, we have Scott Moore and John Lucas, who wrote The Hangover, who came in and did an uncredited rewrite of this movie. Just like some of the most talented comedic minds of all time, all getting together in their prime and bringing their A game. I could go on and on and on about this movie, and I have, but I just cannot offer up this movie enough praise.
I'm not comfortable with that.
Let's play tummy sticks.
What's tummy stick? I don't want to play tummy sticks.
And now that you know what made 2005 the year that comedy movies peaked, you might notice the only thing that's missing is Todd Phillips. You know, the guy who directed Old School, Road Trip, and The Hangover? Well, I broke down all the ingredients that make him the perfect comedy movie director, including several things that you would never think of. And I outline it all here.